welcome. My name is Miriam Galdelli from The Adaptive Human. Today I have James Wilson with me. So he's from Kansas. And yes, you can make total jokes with him. I have already. And James owns a collision center. James, how are you?
I'm doing well, Miriam. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing very well. So, James, we met several months ago, and I remember you talking to me about your business and you telling me how your business was doing during the pandemic. Tell me about it.
Sure. So here in the U.S., as soon as COVID hit, we had the instant lockdown, and so a lot of people, I mean, you couldn't drive, but we were considered a necessary business, so we remained open the entire time. And so our collision repair for automobiles actually went down. But the interesting thing is that once people could begin traveling again, they were staying local because their family vacations were canceled, where they would fly to Florida or overseas. And so from there, they went crazy here in Kansas and they were buying campers and RVs and coaches. They couldn't keep them in stock. And so that's what's impacted our business model was these new drivers on the road learning how to tow a fifth wheel or drive a class A coach and having accidents. And so that's a whole new way that we pivoted, and we didn't even know we were going to go that direction.
So it's amazing because, well, first of all, I've never been camping. Yes, I know a lot of people will be shocked. I just don't see why I would want to pay to sleep on the floor. So I can completely understand why people would buy campers because you have something to sleep on, you have something to use. And what are some of the biggest mistakes you noticed with campers?
As far as like the types of accidents people are having,
Yes.
or uh, a little bit of everything. At the dealerships, they do their best to educate the consumer when they purchase the bumper pull or fifth wheel or the class A, B, or C RV. But a lot of it is with the additional length behind a vehicle. People forget about what we refer to as the tail swing. So that's the part of the vehicle of the camper behind the rear axle. And so when you begin to turn or you're backing up, you've got a lot of extra distance behind you, shall we say, and they forget about it. And then they start hitting poles or other vehicles or chain link fences, things of that nature. It's amazing what can happen. I'll just say that.
I guess it's amazing what we don't pay attention to. We should. We should be paying
Yes,
attention when
yes,
we drive. Practice
absolutely.
there should be practice areas, with like old tires stacked up so you can drive into the tires and not, into somebody's garage door.
No, I agree. I don't think enough new RV camper owners really take the time to do simple things like adjusting their mirrors and yeah, practicing, like you said, getting a feel for it. Just like when you get your motorcycle license or you get a over the road truck license, you have to practice and then take your test. I really wish that they would mandate that here in the US, just from a safety aspect, let alone the property damage that can occur from some minor mistake.
Mm.
Yeah.
We I'm just now picturing I'm sorry, I'm just very visual. How many garage doors had to be replaced?
Garage doors, fences, other vehicles.
Good luck
It's
with the collision.
other RVs, boats. You think about when people are storing these items, they have to back them into a stall really close to another camper or a boat. Uh, like I said, we've seen about everything. Low clearances, they forget how tall they are, and then they try to drive underneath something that's not tall enough.
Mhm.
It will just completely devastate an RV for sure.
Yeah, I bet. And then, because I know there's also some that you can attach to a trailer hitch. Have we seen any mistakes there where maybe they put too much weight on a trailer hitch too, or?
Yeah, absolutely. They forget that the tongue of the camper will only hold a certain percentage of weight, and so people have a tendency to overload the front end of those. And when that occurs, then between the tow vehicle and the camper, it's not an evenly weight distributed setup. So when they're driving down the road, they get up to highway speeds of 50, 60, 70 miles an hour, then they can get kind of a heavy tail swing. And if there's any sort of wind or anything of that nature, it can actually, they can lose control and drive off the road or worse, roll the vehicle over. So
Wow.
yeah, it can get pretty interesting if people just aren't paying attention to the simple things when it comes to safety.
I feel like you need to have the James Wilson show, how to take care of your RV.
That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea. Yeah, I hear we're focused on safe and proper repairs of vehicles. So that's something we ought to think about. You can be my co-host and ask all the fun questions.
So you had mentioned that it wasn't a direction you really thought of going into, but you fell into it. Um, how did you adapt to that?
Well, we just did it. Like so many things, it's people think that RVs and things are very overly complicated, and really they're pretty simply built. So you just picture that it's basically you have a house and then you have wheels and you put them together.
Okay.
You've got a house that shakes, rattles, and rolls when you go down the highway and things fall apart. It's interesting when they're built new and they're brought from the factory to the dealership, how many repairs we do because parts are like literally falling off the vehicle on the way to the dealership and they haven't even sold the vehicle. So, uh, yeah. So, so how did we adapt? Luckily, we had one of our body techs and she had worked for a manufacturer and she really enjoys working on them. So as soon as we started, uh, as soon as the opportunity was afforded to us to repair these vehicles, she was very excited and knew more about them than the rest of us did. So it's a learning curve in the sense that each one is built differently. Parts due to COVID are very hard to get. We will wait 4 to 6 months to receive parts, just simply because of the production schedule being delayed, and then the mass sales that they've been experiencing on their end, they just can't keep up. Um, but yeah, we adapted in the sense that, well, this is the direction, this is what people are calling for, um, and so we just, like everything we do, we just focus on excellence and meeting our clients' needs and expectations.
Yeah.
And so we have one dealership. They have multiple locations in Kansas, and it's to the point now where they're towing the RVs to us from up to 3 hours away
Oh, wow.
because there's no in between where they're at and where we're located that can perform the repairs in a timely manner and in a proper manner, in a way that's um, not a substandard repair, shall we say. So we've been really blessed in that way, in that regard. So
Yeah, we've all had some standard repair done on our car that has made us realize how important it is to work with somebody who knows what they're doing. In normal times, you have told me that you guys specialize in luxury cars.
yes.
So how did you decide?
How did I decide on what we wanted to do as far as like with the business? At the end of the day, like in our market, there are over 100 collision repair facilities. And so the majority of them focus on automobiles and insurance repairs. And most of them do not want to work on the older vehicles. They do not want to work on luxury or collector vehicles,
Mm-hmm.
simply because it impacts their financials. It impacts their cycle time is what we call it. Basically how quick you get a vehicle in and get it out. And so those sorts of repairs, many shops don't want to touch. And I realized that was more of a blue water area. You know, the sharks were feeding over here all on this, and we're going to go over to the clear blue water, shall we say. And yeah, I focus on basically people who have specialty vehicles, and I include the RVs, coaches. We do fire trucks, ambulances, but then yeah, the luxury exotic vehicles, because they have disposable income for one, but they want the vehicles repaired properly.
Yes.
And they're willing to pay, they're willing to wait, and they're willing to pay for what it takes to do it correctly.
Yeah.
So we've had I guess the luxury to be able to not necessarily turn work away, but send potential clients to other shops who would be a better fit to meet their needs,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. So you've also told me that some people send you their cars from quite far so that they can get good repairs. You've had some
Yes,
from out of state?
yes, and I haven't figured this one out yet, but yeah, we actually have a gentleman sending his Lamborghini to us from Florida, and I asked how he had heard about us, and he had seen our Facebook, our social media post, as well as our web page. And I think perhaps some of it is just the simple cost of living, you know, on the coastal states, you know, it's much higher. Labor rates in our industry are much higher, and as near as I can tell from him, he just really likes what we've been doing, and I think we're just a little bit more of a financially reasonable shop for him to go with on this repair, since he's paying out of pocket for it, and it's a very large job.
I mean, some of these luxury cars cost as much as a small house. So I would assume you'd want it to be taken care of properly. And how did you decide to go into this type of industry?
Well, it started back 34 years ago when I was in high school, and I had an old Camaro that needed work done, and I wanted to paint it. So I started taking it to shops back in the 1980s, and shops were wanting like $5,000 to clean up and paint the car. I'm like, I just don't have that kind of money, but I'm a very hands-on person, and found the opportunity to go work for a shop, friends of my parents, and it was kind of a hole in the wall shop, but luckily the foreman and the technicians that worked there genuinely cared about what they did and wanted to repair the vehicles properly. So I don't think I could have learned from anybody else better than these guys. And I was really drawn into the industry. And so within 7 years, I went from there to working at one of the top 3 shops in our market. And I felt like I could never learn enough. And so I got bored with automobiles, and I started learning commercial and industrial. And we worked on cranes and all sorts of crazy things back in the day. If it sits still long enough, we would paint it. And so from there, I have a love for the industry in the sense that it's artistic, but it's also being able to put something back to a pre-loss condition, you know, how it would have been when it was built from the factory, or as close as humanly possible
Okay.
to the sense where you would not be able to tell that it had been repaired before.
Mm. Do you still have that Camaro?
No, nope. And the interesting thing is that I never painted it.
Oh
I
no.
never painted it, because that's kind of the joke, you know, like, you know, if you're a plumber, you know, you've got leaky faucets and things at home that you don't fix. You know, if you're a painter, the paint's falling off your house. And same thing with painters and body guys. You can see their cars in a parking lot because they're usually never completed.
And I have to ask this. I ask every car lover this. What would be your dream car to have?
Dream car. That's a really good question, because there's a lot out there. I keep going back to there's several, but if I had to pin it to one, it would be Porsche 930 Widowmaker. It's a wide body Porsche, manual transmission, and the cars are very simple, but they are really pretty quick. They're pretty quick. So compared to new cars, not so much, but I learned, I think it was put really well from a friend of mine. He was interviewing a gentleman who has plenty of money. He's in the film industry, and he can purchase anything out there. And he asked this gentleman the same question. He's like, "What's your favorite car?" And he's like, I think it was a Porsche 911, just a base model, simple car. And he's like, "Well, why is that?" He's like, "Well, I think it's better to drive a slow car fast instead of a fast car slow." And ever since then, it's really resonated with me. So yeah, it is a lot more fun to run through the gears and really push a slow car faster than, driving 1,000 horsepower or whatever and not being able to give it any gas, or you're gonna, be doing loop-de-loops out in the parking lot. So, but
I used
yeah,
to always want a Porsche 911 turbo. And then I went to Italy, and my uncle took me for a drive on his in his sports Maserati car, and
oh yeah,
on the mountains with the turns, and it
those
was
are nice. Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. It's hard to pin one car down right now. So, um, we have a 1968 Datsun Fairlady Roadster that we purchased, and we're in the process of getting it finished. And then I purchased an '84 Lotus Turbo Esprit from my friend in Texas. Um, I just gotta go get it sometime. So, but yeah,
Also now it's cold.
there's too many options, and I'm really a firm believer. Most of the manufacturers have always had like one really good or cool vehicle, something that was really defined that manufacturer. So there's so many options out there. I think you could purchase 100 cars and there's still more to get.
Yeah. So what's next for you? Like, what's the next direction your business is going in?
Well, this year we're focused on expanding our building. Our property, we own a little over 3 acres. And so we have plenty of room to expand. So we do a lot of RV storage down here. And then we're looking to add on to the building so we can have a dedicated space just for the RVs and coaches, because it seems like those repair types are not going to go away. And now that people are driving again, we're seeing more of the traditional collision repair, even a little bit of restoration work, and then of course our specialty vehicles coming in again. And so we've run out of space, quite honestly.
That's amazing. It's not often that I get to speak to somebody who can tell me that 2020 was a good year for them. And I'm really happy to see that there's a direction, there's a method to the madness for you, because that's what we want to see. We want to see all the businesses succeed.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. In 8 years of business, we've grown year over year, but by far last year, 2020, and I can't explain it. It makes zero sense to me. It really does. But last year was our best year ever, and it looks like we're on target to grow again this year.
Wow.
So yeah, we're really, really fortunate. Just the struggle we have here in the Midwest is finding qualified technicians, especially the younger people that want to get into the trades. And so that's why I'm actively seeking contacts around the world and reaching out to those people to see if they have the young people in their country who are maybe wanting to move to the US in search of an opportunity to do well, take pride in their industry, and make some good money along the way.
Well, that's incredible. I hope we share this with as many people as possible who hear that, because, I'd like to work on luxury cars, but
Look,
I'm
come
not
on
a
down.
precision person.
It's warmer. It's warmer down here. It's warmer down here.
I'm not a precision person. My rule is I will build things, but don't ask me to measure anything. I measure 10 times and it's a different number each time. So you don't want me doing anything that has to do with precision.
So as long as like 7 out of the 10 are all the same, you're good. So
So if you had to give one piece of advice to somebody who wants to buy a luxury car, 'cause I know that they were kind of your niche before the RVs came flooding in, what would it be?
pre-purchase inspection is
Mhm.
my advice. Make sure you have someone that you trust to thoroughly inspect the vehicle. Um, Whether it's, everything from mechanics to the body to the drivability. There's a lot of repairs being made out there, vehicles that are kind of being thrown together haphazardly, and they throw them on the internet, and then people are buying them. In fact, we just looked at a vehicle yesterday, a gentleman had purchased online, came in from Colorado, um, a nice late 60s Camaro. But once we got looking at it, many of the bolts were not tightened up. He had like the zip ties, that you use for cable ties. Those were holding a lot of things together that shouldn't be holding it together. I'll just say that. And so it looked good from 10 feet away, but once we inspected it closer, it was not put together well. And there were some certain safety things that were of concern that we, had to bring to his attention. So I just recommend, you could spend $200-300 for a good inspection, but definitely have a vehicle checked out, make sure, the investment that you're about to make is what you expect it to be before signing that check over to the seller.
And I'm assuming you guys can do that in Kansas.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely, yes. Yeah,
Because
we do that on a fairly regular basis.
there's two things I don't want in my car holding things together, and that is zip ties and duct tape.
Yes.
There used to be a show here in Canada called the Red Green Show, and he used to fix everything with duct tape. And not a good
Wow.
idea, guys. Not a good idea. Not in your vehicle. It's all about safety.
Yes, it is.
Jason, thank you so much for James, thank you so much for being here today. I really called you the wrong name.
I've been called worse. I'm good with it. Call me Bob. That's okay.
I've been doing that all week because for some reason, all my meetings and clients have similar names. So
Oh, lovely, lovely.
they must be asking themselves, how old is this woman?
Yeah, that's all right. You just need more coffee. It's good.
I actually don't drink coffee. I just drink water, amazingly. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure people will love the tidbits that you gave on here. There's car lovers and RV lovers everywhere in the world. If you have any questions, please reach out to James. His information will be in the description boxes. And this is Miriam Galdelli from The Adaptive Human. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much. It was a true pleasure, Miriam.